do have some bad news. Well, good news and bad news. The good news is Senator Ron Johnson is here, but the bad news is Congress is back in session, so I'm sure we're about to get screwed in one way or another. So joining me now, Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin. Okay, Senator, before we get into the spending, which I have no doubt is coming, and we'll be told that we have to pass it or the world will come to an end, what's happening at the CDC? Because it looks like good things from my perspective.
Well, Jesse, I would tend to agree with you. I don't have knowledge of all the inner workings, but from my standpoint, I think federal health agencies were corrupted. I think it's been obvious, certainly since COVID, that the federal health agencies were captured by big pharma, other interests. They weren't serving the interests of the American public. They were lying to us. I mean, there's a long list of lies told during COVID. The injection was going to stay in our arm. Again, things we weren't told about the biodistribution of the injection. It's an injection. The covering up of the myocarditis signal that we know now. We have documents of that. I think there's going to be more information coming out of other signals that they also hid. So again, these agencies have lost the trust of the American public because they haven't been trustworthy. And these are the individuals that push the mandates. They're the people that covered things up, lied to the American public. And from my standpoint, I'm happy to see them go.
Senator, it's kind of a general question, but I think the trust between people and their institutions is just everything for a country, and that a country will end if that trust is broken. Do the people who run these institutions, all of them, health, FBI, media, whatever, do they realize that? Does that go into any of their heads as they tell lie after lie and then cover up the lie that they just told and then cover up for the cover up? Do any of these people care that trust is necessary or the country will end?
What I found, again, I'm not of this world. I'm an accountant from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, came here, never ran for office. All of a sudden here in Washington, D.C., and this is a bubble. It's a very thick, well-insulated bubble. And I think that's part of the problem is you have all this government concentrated right here in this alternate universe. A better idea would literally be to send out these agencies into different states so that the people that first of all, serve those agencies come from different places, not just within the Beltway here. But I think that's a big problem. I've often said that we just don't have enough people in Washington, D.C., not in the administration, not in Congress, not in congressional staff, that have any experience in, which means very little knowledge of, and maybe worse, sympathy for the private sector. They don't have a clue how hard it is to run a business and how all the rules, regulations, the taxes that they impose on businesses just make it that much more difficult. So it's just a matter of simply, again, no experience in, very little knowledge of, and maybe worse, no sympathy for. And then throw on top of that, and we'll talk about this with spending, they've never even been part of a functioning organization where you have a mission statement, where you have a vision statement, where you set annual goals, where the people that are part of the organization understand their role they play to accomplish those goals. And again, here we are. We don't appropriate these accounts, not in any kind of rational way. It's these 2,000 plus page omnibus spending bills that nobody has a chance to read. Somebody writes them somewhere. They slip all kinds of crap in there. And that's been accepted here. Like that's how the government operates. It's a $7 trillion a year entity. $7 trillion, $7,000 billion. And we don't have our act together where we actually appropriate. And again, all we're trying to appropriate is about a quarter of it. 75% of it is on automatic pilot. And they set it up that way so they don't have to appropriate it. So the government just continues to grow. And as government grows, our freedoms recede. So no, I'm not a fan of this place at all.
Senator, okay, you brought it up. We might as well get into this horrible subject. A spending bill is coming of some kind. What is coming? Is it multiple bills? Is it an omnibus bill? What is coming, and how bad is it going to be?
Probably the best case scenario would just be a continuing resolution. Now, again, it's an awful way to run government, but if you have to do a deal with Democrats, they're going to demand more spending, and we can't afford it. Jesse, I know you know that since January 1st this year, I've been arguing that we must return to a pre-pandemic level of spending. We're not even close. I laid out options somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 trillion dollars. We're still spending well over 7 trillion. The one big beautiful bill knocked that down a little bit, but not by much, not anywhere near enough. And so probably the best situation is just continued spending at this year's level. Don't increase it. Do that for year after year after year. It's probably the best case scenario until literally we have the public demanding fiscal conservatism. Now, President Trump, remember in his address to Congress, said he wanted to do something in the near term that hasn't been done in 24 years, balance the federal budget. Well, listen, no president in my lifetime has honored his promises more than President Trump has. I want to hold him to his word, and I'll do everything I can to help him with that. Line by line review, program by program review of the federal budget. Nothing should be off the table, but that's what it's going to take. It's going to take like forensic accounting and analysis and information, and the public has to be behind us, because that's a big problem, Jesse, is when you don't have the public demanding it. What the public wants is they want their benefits, right? They want their benefits. You can cut somebody else's benefit, but don't cut my benefit. And by the way, tax somebody else for my benefit as well. So that's the game the American public is basically playing. Tax somebody else to provide me my benefit. No, by the way, increase my benefit. That's the state of play in America today. Driving to the airport today, I was listening to Wisconsin Talk Radio. 3.5 million riders of the Milwaukee transit system don't pay the bus fare. That's like 8 million bus fares going unpaid annually. That is the level of lack of respect for law, the lawlessness that we're living in today here in America. It's not a pretty sight.
Speaking of lawlessness, look, I honestly don't want to single her out, even though I can't stand her. Ilhan Omar, there's a big story out there today that she makes $174,000 a year. Her net worth is $30 million. We hear about the stock trading all the time, where members of Congress somehow beat Warren Buffett every single year in the stock market. It's such naked corruption that seems like it should be such an easy thing to solve. What is happening back there?
Well, again, I don't know the specifics of her situation, but it sounds like she was funneling campaign contributions to her now husband when he was not her husband, and they built up a little nest egg there. And again, I don't know how else they built their wealth, but yeah, I mean, somebody like her goes from nothing to $6 to $30 million in wealth. Again, it's a weird account. It's a weird financial disclosure. They have these ranges from 1 to 5 million, 5 to 25 million. So you can really over exaggerate what a member of Congress is worth. But apparently her minimum is $6 million. And I think that ought to be investigated. Remember when this came before Homeland Security, and we had an amendment. Rick Scott had a great amendment. Well, why don't we investigate how Nancy Pelosi got all her wealth? We've got to do the same thing with Ilhan Omar or anybody else who just has this outsized wealth that they didn't come into Congress with, but all of a sudden after serving a few years, all of a sudden they're worth millions. That ought to be investigated and, if necessary, prosecuted. We have laws on the books to prevent this kind of fraud.
Senator, back to what we were talking about before. You mentioned 3/4 of the spending is automatic. Is there any way to undo that, or is all of it these third rail of politics stuff where the second you bring it up, someone's going to say you're trying to take away grandma's Social Security and you lose your next election? Can we do anything about this spending?
Yes. The thing I continue to point out is if you leave Social Security and Medicare off the table, even Medicaid, we've got $1 trillion of other mandatory spending. It should be discretionary spending. But again, what Congress has done, because they want to keep spending more money, is they just deviously transfer what should be discretionary spending appropriated to other mandatory. And so it just becomes mandatory. And again, it's out of sight, out of control. So that's the game they've been playing. But that's why I keep pointing out there's close to $400 billion that we're spending this year that if you take 2019 expenditures, plus them up by inflation population, we're spending $400 billion more than that inflated figure from 2019. And that excludes Social Security and Medicare.
Good God. Senator, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.